Hello, good morning. Welcome to this
Good morning.
podcast, Role of Trade Agreements and Trade Associations in Fostering Semiconductor Ecosystem Collaborations. I am Dr. Sriganesh Rao, member of a research team under the Maitri Grant program of DFAT Australia for developing a roadmap for Australia-India collaboration on semiconductors. I have with me Mr. Vish Viswanathan, who is the chair for Make with India industry chapter of Australia India Business Council. Vish is an experienced engineer and technocrat, having 50 years of expertise in electronics technology commercialization and business development across Australia and India. He has held senior roles at Tata Group, Keltron, and the New South Wales government, driving procurement, infrastructure, and international projects. Vish has led the New South Wales government's International Business Division, facilitating water and water technology transfer to a state in India called as Karnataka. He's a long-standing AIBC member, fostering ties with Invest India, FICCI, TexProsil, and other key trade bodies, supporting trade uh, delegations. He promotes Make with India initiatives and strengthens agribusiness, advanced manufacturing, smart energy, defense, and security collaborations between Australia and India. Good morning, Vish.
Very good morning, Dr. Ganesh.
Vish, uh, could you tell us about the historical trade between Australia and India and the estimated future trade?
Well, I think as we see, the Australia-India trade has been going on ever since Captain Cook's time. I mean, to literally. But I think in terms of actual formalization of the trade agreements and sort of exchange of many, I would say, cooperation agreements started with, I would say, around maybe 1990s. And when the Australia-India Business Council was formed about 40 years ago, it was formed by two prime ministers, Prime Minister of India, Sri Rajiv Gandhi ji, as well as Bob Hawke, who was a Prime Minister of Australia. They had a
Okay.
vision for the Australia-India trade, and with that vision, as we are seeing the 40th year of the Australia-India Business Council, the trade agreements have been evolving a number of, I would say, different types of agreements. Um, and in fact, they got a boost with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Australia in 2014 or so. And then since then, the trade has increased tremendously. And the trade was estimated below $25 billion around that time. But it has been doubling up in every 10 years or so. And then as we see now in the year 2024-25, we are seeing a figure of $50 billion. But
Oh,
the target is $100 billion by 2030. That is the target which has been agreed between the two governments. Now, the focus is the bilateral relationship between Australia and India relations have been very good. One good thing about Australia-India relations is, irrespective of the governments, irrespective of the political nature of the governments, whether it is uh, Party A or Party B ruling the federal government in Australia, and similarly whether the Party A or Party B is ruling in India, the bilateral trade relationship has been growing. People to people connections have been growing. With the result, that has provided a momentum and an impetus a strong base for the growth of the trade. So, when Prime Minister, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, um, along with him during the COVID time, they initiated a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. They signed about 9 agreements with Prime Minister Modi, and that has sort of clearly identified the Australia-India economic strategy, which was initiated by um, Peter Verghese, and that had identified a number of industry sectors very clearly defined and the roadmap to 2035. And then Australia's progress since then with many agreements like ECTA, which is Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement, ECTA, they call it as, and then CICA, which is the comprehensive, much more deeper agreement called a CICA, which is a Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, CICA. And last year, the Australian government has also come out with a roadmap to India's trade relations, a new roadmap, where they have identified 4 sectors, which is the clean energy, education, skills, agribusiness, and technologies, and tourism, as some of these 4 major sectors to be developed immediately. So with all this, and that is again, irrespective of which government is being formed, which political leader is leading the party, and things like that. So there has been a healthy competition between the political parties here to support India's trade relation with India. So
Okay.
that's been extremely good. And then we have to crown all these things, and we have a clear vision from the Indian, which is not only good for Australia but also for the rest of the world. It's called the Make in India project. It's a visionary program by Prime Minister of India, launched in 2014, and since then the Make in India program has received very good responses from more than 150 or 160 countries, including Australia. And so to align with that, the Australia-India Business Council has formed a Make with India chapter, so encouraging Australian businesses to partner with Indian companies to promote bilateral cooperation, collaborations, and identify very clear projects which can be executed with meaningful outcomes. So we are now in 2026 traveling towards the goal of achieving $100 billion. And I have just come from India after a business delegation, Australia-India business delegation, visiting Chennai and Mumbai, where we participated in the World Economic Summit as well in Mumbai. We could clearly see that India is progressing, as I put it out recently, minute by minute and not day by day. So that is the kind of growth which India is achieving. So with that fast growth, the bilateral trade can be achieved of $100 billion can be achieved even before 2030. That's my personal view.
Oh, it is very interesting to hear that.
Yeah.
You're a key member and of the Australia-India Business Council. So could you tell us more about the background of Australia-India Business Council and what has been the role of it in actually facilitating the cross-border business between India and Australia?
Well, as I mentioned before, the Australia-India Business Council was formed about 40 years back. And since then, the um, key cities, there have been state chapters have been established, like all the cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Canberra and Adelaide and Perth. This is to cover all the key Australian states, and each of the states have got their own committees, which was managed by the state committee members. In addition to that, at some point of time, the Australia Business Council, around 2019, they established industry chapters as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the industry chapters are mainly to focus on to be aligning with all this strategic commercial comprehensive strategic partnerships, bilateral partnerships, are aligning to these industry sectors. For example, advanced manufacturing, clean energy or smart energy. Then you have infrastructure, and then you have agribusiness, you have education and skills, and you have recently we have started the sports and hospitality sector as well. And more importantly, in 2022, we also formed defense and space and security chapter as well, because
Mm-hmm.
the bilateral cooperation in defense between Australia and India as part of the ongoing agreement with Australia and India is also very good. And there is a lot of opportunities between Australia and India in the defense and space sector. India, quite interestingly, has opened up participation in the defense sector in a very big way. And sometimes some of the products are even allowing even more than 90% or practically 100% of the FDI in some sectors and some of the products. But it allows a very big pathway for Australian companies to enter into the Indian market or collaborations and partnerships. And India has gone to the moon with a technology and its own technology of Indian Space and Research Organization. With that, we can also see a lot of opportunities in the space business, including launching of satellites as well, and then producing certain specific space-related programs. Similarly, the information and security is also very important, and there has been a number of agreements have been signed between India and Australia in terms of the cyber security, so which includes the defense security as well. So there is a growing area of importance where a lot of opportunities are there. So with all this, what is happening is the Australian Business Council have been conducting a number of events within Australia to promote the discussions B2B. It's not only B2B, basically government to government, government to business, business to business, and also encouraging small to medium enterprises. And in India, in Australia, we have also got unique social enterprises which are being promoted by the First Nation businesses, which is very unique. And so we have all these opportunities in Australia, and then which are getting also recognized in India through our partnership programs, our business delegations. In last year, the AIBCs arranged about more than 2 or 3 business delegations. Similarly, Australia has been receiving a number of delegations from India, such as Invest India, then Texprosil, basically textile promotion companies. And then we also had agri-business companies. Recently, we had a food and agribusiness exporters delegation which came. And then there are other sectors from time to time have been coming, including smart energy and other. We have Confederation of Indian Industries coming, and then we have been holding specific industry-specific events to promote the B2B or G2B relations.
Okay. How does this trade agreements uh, basically related to IP production, tariffs, and the dispute resolutions?
Okay, it's a very interesting question because at the end of the day, all this talks, all these discussions, all the memorandum of understandings, I would say, need to be having some meaningful outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And these meaningful outcomes are in the form of partnership agreements,
Mm-hmm.
contracts, and and then moving forward, even sharing the IPs and technologies and things like that. So when it comes to this, I've handled, both for the government as well as the private industries, both in India as well as Australia. The major problem happens if the contract is not well written.
Mm-hmm.
And the contract has to be actually foolproof and also beyond, the scope of that, expecting some eventualities. Now, recently, for example, very recently, we are seeing these instances of a disruption of the fuels to India and other countries. I mean, globally, there's been a shortage of, or there's some kind of an uncertainty going on about the fuel supply chain, how that is going to affect the contract. So these kind of eventualities have to be built into the contract so that the disputes do not arise. So the dispute resolution clause should be the strongest clause in the contract. So if we don't do that, then we get into the disputes and then the contracts are no longer workable and the contracts break and nothing happens afterwards. So it's a failure. So to avoid this, what has been happening is Australia India Business Council has signed an agreement with the Arbitration Council of India.
Mm-hmm.
And also we have, or similarly, the equivalent bodies here, Arbitration Council of Australia. We have got some general agreement with them. And so what we can do is to sort of ensure that we identify a commercial framework. We can come out with some commercial framework which can be addressing some of these issues, like what you mentioned, the intellectual property protection,
Mm-hmm.
and also sharing of the technologies, how that is done. And so there is a pathway of mitigating some of those challenges which are happening with the two countries, between Australia and India, in commercial agreements.
Mm-hmm. As you're aware, India has embarked on a domestic semiconductor journey through its flagship program, which is called as India Semiconductor Mission. This opens up new avenue for collaboration with Australia, especially in the critical minerals area. Can you elaborate on the semiconductor programs and projects in Australia?
Well, independently, Australia has been also embarking on this semiconductor projects and missions, and they have been, as more than, I mean, to my knowledge, more than 10 to 15 years ago, they've started this initiative. And in terms of going through the fundamental research happens in the universities. I mean, we have excellent universities in Australia, including Sydney, where I live, is the University of Sydney, the University of New South Wales, and similarly, other universities in Australia, and also we have the CSIRO, which is the Central Space, I mean, research and things like that. So we have, and also the critical minerals is being looked at very closely now than before. In last at least I would say 4 to 5 years, critical minerals is focused as a emerging, I would say, a segment which no country can ignore. In fact, that is becoming a marketing bargain for many of the countries, because if any country which is very rich in the critical minerals is definitely a very rich country in terms of opportunities in manufacturing and also contributing not only to its economy but also the rest of the world. So to that extent, Australia has been blessed with a number of critical minerals.
Okay.
So they have a critical minerals strategy, and
Mm-hmm.
also there is a bilateral critical minerals partnership agreement as well between India and Australia. And as part of that, and the semiconductors is being looked at, the Australia has been looking at the semiconductors, and One of the good things about the Australian semiconductors, I would say, strengths is they are very good in a couple of things. For example, there's opportunities in defense and space and industrial electronics for semiconductors, which are projects which are being developed in Australia. They're very good in radar and photonics, and there is uh, combined with the basic materials, basic research capabilities, and also they are working on strengthening the semiconductor value chain, which
Mhm.
is very important, not only for within Australia but also for the rest of the world. So, if there is, especially when it comes to a question of partnership with India on semiconductors, now there's heartening to note that the government of India is now going on a second phase of the semiconductor mission, which is going to be investing into thousands of crores, and which is going to be expanding the horizon of the current production capabilities and also the uh, spheres, the different spheres in the semiconductors capabilities in terms of the chip production and things like that, and also the production capacities. And not only from the government point of view, they're also allowing private industries like the Tatas and other people. So that shows there is a very focused program which is coming directly. I can see that the Prime Minister also, Narendra Modi, has also been making a number of important announcements and of these milestones and making it very visible about the roadmap of semiconductor mission in India. So with that, what I'm seeing is a very good avenue for Australia-India collaboration in semiconductors. And in terms of, I would say, the chip design or production or sharing of the IP, there's opportunities between the two countries.
Okay, you I mentioned about this semiconductor value chain. If you look at the fabrication segment of this value chain, what could be the potential opportunities and challenges for collaboration between Australia and India in the fabrication segment?
Well, I think, as I said, it's basically it's a question of implementing. Uh, so the challenges can be the availability of the materials in time, and because now with this few challenges we are seeing, we also have to see how is the local production and how is the local market is going to be met, and then if we have to collaborate, the most challenging thing is going to be sharing the IPs, and the other challenge is identifying certain locations which can be used for manufacturing, and also coming out with plan B, because if these technologies are superseded with superior technologies, because this some of these things programs can take some time, but by the time the new technologies can come. So uh, to give a specific example is we do not know how the artificial intelligence is going to play a role in many of our supply chain or many of the even standard commercialization of the projects and things like that. So in terms of the effect of the artificial intelligence, how effectively people are controlling that is also going to be one of the challenges.
Okay. Yeah. So apart from the fab segment in the semiconductor value chain, we also have the ATMP, what is called as assembly, testing, marking, and packaging. So, are there any specific areas within this ATMP where Australia and India could collaborate to enhance individual capabilities and competitiveness?
Yes, definitely, because that's where the universities are working at the moment. I mean, I'm aware that a number of universities are working, and then they're coming out with some programs, and there will be certain opportunities to look at that, how that can be commercialized.
Mhm.
So they're still in the development stage. I mean, as to be uh, in reality, Australia's journey to semiconductors is fairly recent as compared to other countries.
Mhm.
So India is also, similar boat. I mean, India's journey also has been fairly recent. So I think with all these things, and we are seeing definitely a great amount of synergy, even though we are late, but we are not too late. So
Yeah.
the advantage about the Australian technologies is they pretty much, I would say, uh, easily be transferable with commercial agreements. And then we also have some of these universities have also got Indian students who are coming from India and studying here, and then we have the advantage of both the skill sets.
Okay. See, India is also attracting a lot of investments in outsourced semiconductor assembly and test, which is called
Yeah,
as OSAT. How can Australian companies partner to provide, say, high-end packaging technologies and expertise to India?
it's a very good question, but I think again, like every sector, it has to be very clear, like what are the I would say encouragements for Australian companies.
Hmm.
I mean, that has to be more visible. For example, as I was saying to defense, it's very clear. They got a program saying that so much of percentage of FDI is allowed. So similarly, I'm I'm not I mean, like, I'm not that familiar with the recent policies,
Okay.
but I program, or if there is a policy which will clearly identify what would be attracting the investments from Australia, very clearly saying, definitely Australian companies will look at that.
Okay.
And that is the role of the Australia-India Business Council also to encourage such partnerships.
Hmm. Uh, what kind of, with talent uh, mobility programs could be made, which can enable semiconductor engineers, researchers, and entrepreneurs to work easily between Australia and India?
Okay, again, that's a very good question in terms of skill and talent development. This has been a chronic, I would say, issue, I would say, because
Yeah.
this bilateral skill development is why I'm saying chronic is it's been discussed for a number of times over the number of agreements. But I'm happy to say that Australia and India have signed a skill, skill and talent. I mean, they got a skill development agreements signed between the various ministers. But what is important for us to know, every country um, has got their education and skills policy. They also have an immigration policy.
Hmm.
So, as long as all these policies are aligned, and then we are able to get people, then it's possible to have more mobility. But if there's no point in having only an education and skills policy and immigration policy is not updated. So the immigration policy has to map with the education and skills policy.
Hmm.
So that's very important. And then with that, I think we should be, for example, to be give you a very simple example is if there is a very bright candidate from India or a
Hmm.
very bright candidate from Australia, are they able to be placed in either Indian company or Australian company um, without waiting to have a formal, like, sometimes it takes, you know, couple of months or even a year or two to get the skills assessment and things like that. So if there is any pathway of identifying some of these skills, supersede skills, and then provide them a pathway in the immigration program, that will be great. So what I'm trying to say is the um, education and skills policy and the immigration policy have to be aligned.
Okay.
But having said that, it is not that easy because the the situation is we have to respect the immigration policies of every government, and that's foremost important that they're looking at the national interest, and every country is looking after their national interest. So I think that comes as the foremost interest to be considered before we say that this policy is good or not good, because every country is definitely knowing what it's doing. So all that we are making sure is if there is a pathway which can be aligned to attract some of the skill sets, that will be good.
Okay. What are your views on Australian and Indian universities working together on semiconductor research as a joint programs?
It's already, I mean, I would say that I'm sure that in the universities, some of the universities have also, Australian universities have established campuses in India. For example, Deakin University,
Hmm.
and then University of New South Wales, and then I know the University of Western Australia, as recently I've seen that. And so there are a number of Australian universities which have already set up the campuses in India. And so it's possible to have definitely collaborations and partnerships specifically for semiconductor design, because as I said, it is fairly a new area which both the countries are identified as the growth area in semiconductors to achieve the semiconductor plans and semiconductor mission in India as well as semiconductor goals in Australia. So I'm sure that there will be pathways, and the university will be very open, very much open for these things. And some of these new universities are also looking at specific programs. And in fact, I would say that this is kind of partnerships are also being promoted by Australian government, and that's why this Maitri grants is one of the focus areas I mean, where this facilitates such partnerships. So I'm sure that there will be opportunities for more Maitri grant recipients to look into these things.
Okay. And finally, Vish, how can your organization, AIBC, facilitate the semiconductor related collaboration between Australia and India?
Okay. It's again looking from a very broad picture of Make with India. So this is coming under that. So certainly I'll be looking to closely look at the opportunities both in India and Australia moving forward to work on this, collaborative and partnership possibilities and facilitate them to a meaningful agreement.
So thank you, Vish. So thanks for your valuable thoughts on this area and for your time on this. I thank you very much on this.
This also another thing is I just want to mention that
Hmm.
there's a focus on the regional areas now by the
Okay.
Australian Business Council. So in fact, the day after tomorrow, we have Geelong, India business meet. Geelong
Okay.
is very close to Melbourne, and
Hmm.
Geelong has been a regional area, and it has also got a lot of companies in the defense and space, and also some manufacturing, and it's got agribusiness and also tourism and hospitality. So a number of sectors that they're looking at. So what we are, AIBC is also developing a strategy to promote the regional, areas of Australia and encouraging small to medium businesses So that is also part of our 40th year celebration program. So to encourage the participation between small to medium enterprises, collaborations.
Yeah, I do hope all this would help in the collaboration for the semiconductor between Australia and India.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, okay,
And
thank you once again.
thank you so much for the opportunity. And once again, congratulations for your excellent effort in the area of the semiconductors and value chain. And we should have such discussions and I would say exchange of ideas in terms of how we can these things can be achievable. Because one of the things which I've noticed in my recent business delegation is people are taking MOUs seriously. The MOU doesn't remain as just a piece of paper, but they are working out how the MOUs can be translated into grounded projects. That's very, very good with a sign between India and Australia. And that is why I'm seeing a lot of hope and a lot of hope with that we'll be able to achieve this 100 billion target even before 2030.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah. So thank you once again, Vish.
yeah. Let us continue this journey by
Sure.
this kind of discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.